Went inside and my mom then had came back. That was the first time my mom had came back, and she was like looking at me and she was just like in tears, and she was like, you were green and blue and they carried you out in a bag, and you weren't breathing, and they told me that they couldn't get you to breathe. It took them 5 minutes to get you to breathe and stuff. And I was just like, okay. I was like, but I need to throw up. I kept telling her that I need to throw up. I did this. I knew from the Narcan I needed to throw up, and I wasn't throwing up. And they told her, just sit here with her for a minute. And I remember after they Narcan me, I went and got cigarettes from the store, came back and went right back into an overdose.
Wow.
Went
So
right back
they
into
come, they pump you full of Narcan, you wake up, you go buy a pack of Newports, and then come back and then out cold again.
Out again.
Wow.
Out again. Yep. And then I woke up again in the back of the thing, and they were like, yeah, my oxygen in my brain was at like 30%. And they were like, we have to get this up to like 70.
You were.
Are you pissed that you're alive?
At first I kind of was, but then I was kind of thankful.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It kind of, I don't know why, it just kind of like snapped me, and I was like, I just want to go hug my kids. You know what I'm saying? Because my kids were there the whole time this happened.
Awesome. We have Shae Ramos with us.
Shae, hey.
From what part of Ohio?
North. I'm from the north side.
North side of Ohio. Shae was nice enough to come today after I had explained to her we had a couple of no-call, no-shows, and she made things happen for us. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
It's much, much appreciated. We want to learn more about how you grew up as a child in Ohio and what your life looked like as a kid. Tell us about that.
Okay. Growing up as a kid, I had the best childhood ever as far as like materialism. We grew up with a lot of stuff. It was a lot of tough love though, with as far as stuff was concerned. My dad's Puerto Rican. He's very strict in that sense, so like we, it was cleaning, and he was always, like I said, my dad worked out for Westside Barbell, so he was always on, like a different diet or something. So like my mom was always cooking for us and then cooking him separate stuff.
Dad dinner.
Oh.
It was good. I went to a Catholic school. I went to St. James the Less on Oakland Park. I went there.
How was that?
It was good. Actually, I got in a lot of trouble in Catholic, like, what is that, religion class, because I never agreed that I needed to go to, what was that, where you...
Purgatory?
Yeah, basically like where you go in confession.
Oh, confession, yeah.
That's what I was trying to think of. Confessionals, because I always said, I have a relationship with God. Why am I going to go talk to another person that's, human just like me and God?
Makes sense to me.
So.
Did you ever do it?
What?
Did you ever go in there and actually do it though?
Yeah,
What's
I had
it like?
It was like you had to. It was creepy.
It looks like in movies I've seen it looks creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's like a little box and stuff, which, Mama, I know you're, God rest your soul, but she was the reason why we really did all of that stuff, was my
It's like
grandma.
a screen, or like what's in between you two?
It's like a wooden screen with like kind of like lace, but in wooden.
But can you see the
Can
person?
you see the other guy?
Yeah, you can kind of see like the outlining of their face if you know who was the preacher that day.
And is it like you go in and it's like, tell me your sins, daughter?
Yeah,
like that kind of deal.
Yeah, and if you don't have anything, and then they give you, so many Our Fathers and Hail Marys that you have to say. And what
sins do they want to know? Like current sins,
they
past
want to know
sins,
current
everything.
Sins, past sins, everything. So it was to the point to where like if you didn't have anything that you would sin for, they would be like, you did something. So I'd be like, I flushed my goldfish down the toilet. And
While he's alive?
Is that
no, but
is that a sin?
But I don't know. According to a little kid, I guess basically,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If you think it's a sin kind of thing, then here's a punishment to go along with it.
You ever seen anybody or yourself get like maxed out on Our Fathers and Hail Marys? Like, you never walked out like, dang, you got 30 of them today? What?
No, I don't. Actually, honestly, no, I don't think anybody ever did that, and we weren't like getting whooped or nothing like that. But.
So what? Yeah, what's the usual
punishment?
Yeah,
then?
what's
the punishment?
For sinning?
Basically, you just say the Our Fathers and the Hail Marys, and they give you however basically
and that's the
what
punishment.
that person wants to give you.
So they can give you like 5
5
Our
to 10,
Fathers.
you know, yeah, 5 Our Fathers, 10 Hail Marys,
And then you're good.
Go back
Then
to
you-
class.
And then, yeah, then you're forgiven.
Yeah, then you're forgiven.
That's
But aren't
nice.
you forgiven no matter what?
That's what I
Isn't
thought.
that the whole point?
That's what
That's
they say
what
in
I
the Bible,
said.
right?
Yeah, because you're supposed to be forgiven regardless.
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing. We like to call them
Interesting.
half Catholics. We don't go to that church or anything anymore because you go in there and people would just like look at you, you know. And I, of course, everybody I went to Catholic school with, I went astray, you know, after I left there and started getting into drugs and everything else. So they kind of just look at you like, you know.
It's a very much guilt-centered organization.
Yeah, basically
the Catholic side.
Yeah, it's pretty much to just.
Like, we want to make you feel like shit so
Yeah.
that you don't do bad stuff. Like, I don't.
Yeah, basically
Get
that's
it.
what it is. It's pretty much just to fuck with you, and basically I feel like it fucks with your head more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like telling somebody.
Especially as a kid.
Yeah, you know, and then you're constantly judging other people. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't the best thing.
And fun fact about the Catholics, they used to make you, like, you could pay penance to, like, forgive your sins. Like, if you gave a certain amount, then
Oh, you
like,
could pay them off?
Yeah, you pay them
Yeah.
off back in. I don't know if that still applies.
Oh,
It's
shit.
not in
I'm
history.
sure it
Yeah.
does, you know,
Like-
because people still, you know, the donation shit, that's a big thing. You know, if you don't donate so much, people are watching you.
Yeah, yeah.
Keeping track of who donates and who doesn't. And yeah, it happens in churches
Fuck
all
off.
over. Exactly. That's what I said.
It's
so,
it's a
Yeah.
rough.
That's crazy. All right, so how long did you do the Catholic school thing for?
I went to Catholic school up until 7th grade. Then my parents got divorced. My little sister went with my dad, or my mom, and I went with my dad. And then I started going to public schools. And then we transferred to, I went to Genoa for a little bit.
How was that change? Like the
Oh.
change
Yeah, 'cause that's
from
night and
Catholic
day.
school to public school?
It's very different, you know, because it's like at Catholic school, I got up every morning, I put on my uniform, you know, and stuff like that. And I was already kind of insecure because when I was little, I was chubby. You know, I was the chubbiest kid in the class. They used to call me Rashiki. You remember Rashiki from WWE?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, yes.
Yeah,
I
they
actually
used
do
to-
know who
yeah.
that
They
is.
used to
But
call
isn't
me-
Rashiki like massive?
Yeah.
Like
He's
a
pretty big.
massive
Yeah,
human
but
pretty
being?
big.
I was big when
It's
I was little. I
Rikishi.
don't look like it anymore.
Okay, I doubt you were Rashiki.
Yeah,
though.
but I was the biggest kid in the class. So, but switching to public school, that was way different. It was, I don't know, everybody had their own way of doing stuff, you know, and it was just.
Is this and what side of town is this new school
And
on?
then we moved up into like Westerville area.
Okay.
Westerville, and then yeah, that was when and then after Genoa, I went to Westerville Central. That was where I met all of my main group of friends that I started using and stuff with.
The hoodlums.
Yeah, as you would call them. I guess they would have been in Westerville.
In
but,
Westerville, yeah.
yeah, you know, it was, we had us a nice little tight-knit, like 14, 15 people that always hung out, you know.
Yeah.
So it was cool. And then one of our friends, Johnny, he was like the main dealer, you know what I'm saying, in the group. He's dead now, but
Somehow I knew you were gonna say that.
yeah, that was my best friend, though, honestly. And I tried so hard, actually, because the last time
Sucks.
I got out of rehab and I came home, that was who I was with. And we were talking and stuff, and everything was good, but he was still using, and I was trying to help him with that. And then me and him were supposed to hang out, and I had seen him the night before, sold him an ounce of meth. And then the
Damn.
next day, we were supposed to go and have a hotel for the weekend, just me and him. And
Little staycation.
yeah, this was right before, this was right before my baby's dad had gotten shot. And we were supposed to go because I was just done with him, and I was trying to leave. And then, yeah, I got the call that morning that he was dead. And he was texting me all night, like, please just come, and I didn't. So
Wow.
it really messes with me. So I think about him often. I talk to him probably every day.
You have like regrets, like, man, if I had just showed up that night, man, if I had just
Yeah.
responded, man, if I had like the what ifs, the whole.
Yeah, the major what ifs, you know, because it's just like I don't know.
How'd he die?
He overdosed.
Oh.
He overdosed. Actually, he was at his girlfriend's house, which it was just weird how they said they found him. They said he was at his girlfriend's house, and that the dad, I guess, had walked down and found him, but the girlfriend knew too. So I was like, it just
Didn't
wasn't-
add up.
It
Yeah.
wasn't making sense to me. Like, you know, I knew Johnny. I didn't see Johnny as that person to just go use on somebody's, unless they were openly doing that anyways, you know. But from what I got from it, that's not. That
Well, if
wasn't
his
the case.
girlfriend was using, you would assume they'd use together, right?
Exactly.
and then they
Yeah.
use together, and
How is
something
she?
happens, and
Yeah.
she didn't do anything about it or something of that nature,
Yeah.
to where her dad then finds him, and
Yeah.
it's fucked up.
Yeah, it's fucked up. So between him, I lost him, and then, like I said, my friend Jasmine, I had lost her too within like 6 months of each other, and that really messed me up.
How old are you?
Me, I'm 32.
No, at the time.
Oh, at the time of this, 28.
28. Okay, so this was like semi-recent.
Yeah, it was similar.
But you were friends with these two since high school. Like, these were your like running buddies, your friends in high school.
Yeah, yep. Since I knew Johnny since I was 14, 15 years old, and then Jasmine and I were friends from 18 up until then, yeah.
Tell us about high school. Tell us about the first time you had that experience with a drink or a drug.
Okay, well, the first day I got my license, I know my dad's gonna watch this, but the first day I had my license, I didn't even have my license for 20, 30 minutes, and I went and picked up all my friends. I had 20 pounds of weed.
Wow,
In
wait
the
a
back
minute.
of my car. We
How?
were picking up for Johnny, my friend Johnny. We were picking up stuff for him.
But
and-
you were just down? You were like,
20
because that's
pounds of
like,
weed.
you're going to prison for probably a while.
Yeah, I don't know why I just never looked at it like that. I don't know why. I just didn't. I don't know, just in my head I had good intentions about what I was doing. I wasn't out trying to intentionally hurt anybody or anything like that. So I just always, I don't know, felt God would protect me pretty much.
Where do you keep the
Pretty
20
much.
pounds? It's just like in a
In my
duffel
trunk.
bag, right? Oh, okay, in the
Yeah,
trunk.
it was just in my trunk. Yeah, it was actually, when I think about it, it was pretty open. It was like vacuum sealed.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
just-
still, you get pulled over, you're fucked.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm
if I
sure the
would've got-
car smelled.
Yeah, if
It
I
had
would've gotten
20
pulled
pounds
over,
is a lot.
I would have been fucked, yeah.
And 16-year-old you doesn't think, like, this is weird, I've got 20 pounds of pot in the back of my car?
No, because we were already doing stuff like that. I was doing stuff like that before I had my car, you know, with my boyfriend at the time and stuff. And then we had got into pain pills. When pain pills came around, I was serving at Bob Evans, and then my back would hurt.
What year? What year?
Oh, shit, probably 2013-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, I was serving at Bob Evans, and
Said your back hurt.
yeah, my back hurt, and then so this one girl I knew, she was selling like Perk 5s, like her mom had them or something, and I was buying like, you know, a couple here and there off of them, and I was just popping them. But people that I knew were already on 30s, and then the 30s that came around, and I remember us all sitting down, we had to talk about it, and one dude being like, this is going to be the new crack. And I
The new
remember
crack.
him saying that, and I was just like,
High
what
praise.
the fuck? Why would he say
Well,
that?
2013 is a little late to the party for
Yeah.
those 30s.
Well, it was, I graduated in 2012, so it wasn't then. It had to have been
because
like
2000,
2007, 2008-ish.
I think.
It had to have been. My
yeah,
years are
yeah.
really, listen, my years are really messed up, and I started using Xanax a lot after that, so a lot of my time frames probably aren't point on, but
Because I got into Oxycontin in 09, and I would pay between 45 and 50 for an 80. So like the prices had already, because I know like 2004 or 5,
Yeah.
2003, you could get them for like $20.
yeah.
Yeah, 13 was like $1 a million, at least. if
Oh,
not more,
13,
yeah.
dude, you're paying like $100 for
Yeah.
a fucking 80. Yeah.
I never got into the oxys. I just did the perks. But
30s.
Yeah, we never got into oxys. And a perk 30 shoot, when I started doing that, I would literally break it in half and break like the tiniest piece off.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
would go out during lunch. Every day I had the same routine. I would go out during lunch. I would smoke a bowl in my car, drive around, and then take my little piece of my thing, come back in.
Are you eating it?
You're set.
Yeah, I was.
So you're
eating-
actually
Wow.
eating it?
Yeah, I was just taking a tiny
Good for
little,
you.
like a quarter of a quarter.
And you're feeling it?
And I was rocked. But by that time, I was already around people that were snorting it and banging them and everything else. So I was
Yeah.
like, and I was totally against that. I was like, oh, no. And the only reason why I really ventured over into pills is because my dad had found out I was smoking weed. And I came home, and him and my godfather were there. And I'll never forget, he was like, give me your fucking phone. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. He was like,
Ooh.
no, you're giving me your phone. And my dad, and I was like, no. And I tried to walk out. My dad snatched me up by my hair, dragged me around, had his 2 friends hold me down, and was like, what is your passcode? You're unlocking this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. I gave it to him, and he called my boyfriend at the time. His name was Benny, and he was just like, I'm going to bury you up under your porch, and your mom's going to pour concrete over you, and your mom's going to walk over you every day.
Damn.
Never forget him saying that. And then I was just
Holy
like,
moly.
yeah. So after that, I was like, he's not playing, you know.
And just for weed, right?
Yeah,
Because he
yeah,
thought you
this
were
was just
smoking
for
weed.
This was just for weed, nothing
Wow.
else. Yeah. And then after that, I was hanging around so many people that were doing stuff, and I still wanted to do shit, you
Yeah.
know, but I wasn't really able to because I had a tracker on. They tracked my car, they tracked my phone.
Wow. So
Yeah,
they weren't playing when it came to
They had GPS on your car?
Yeah, they were not playing. Yeah.
Jesus.
poor
Yeah.
Benny though. Like,
Yeah.
right? He's everybody just smoking a little weed, and now he's gonna get fucking murdered under his mom's porch.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
how I ended up getting into pills because I was like, well, you can't smell him. He doesn't, you know. At
Yeah,
that
it's
time,
perfect.
We
It's
were
perfect.
Going, yeah,
It's
nobody's looking me in my eyes
how I
like
felt.
that. So it was just something that I could get away with. But like you were saying before we started, the voice thing. That's what always got me in trouble was the voice thing because people started listening and being
Yeah.
like, oh, you
Right.
sound,
Yeah.
you know, you don't sound right.
There is a like a rasp that comes with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah, it was that, and yeah,
Did
it just
you
started-
did you pick up a habit like boom, like instantly, all right, this is what I'm doing now. Fuck weed, it stinks. Like this is perfect. I can take it. We can move on. I know you
Oh,
I know you
yeah.
said you smoked a
Yeah,
little bit before, but
I would still smoke weed, but I was more cautious about it. Like I used my eye drops and everything else, and my sprays and everything, and I'd be very cautious about that. But what really turned and changed everything was one day I came out to, like I said, take my little piece and put it in my mouth, and I realized it was crushed. The whole pill was crushed. And
Oh,
was
it
like,
got smashed.
What the fuck am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not. You know, I was so totally against that. Like, I'm not snorting nothing. So I sat out in my car for a minute and I thought about it. Like, what am I going to do? And I just made the wrong decision, you know. And that,
Well,
you snorted it.
Yeah, snorted that shit and it was over. Because then at that point, I'm not taking little pieces. I'm doing
yeah, you're doing
halves or
half and a
whole.
whole
It
at a
also
time.
feels very different.
It does. And it's an automatic, like
Yeah,
an instant. You know,
Yeah,
and my
yep.
anxiety has always been so high and stuff that perks was the only thing that I felt like finally calmed me down. Might calm down the voices in my head. I could breathe. I
Yeah.
could, you know, focus on shit. I wasn't as anxious or always in my head about, you know, past shit. Because I have a problem of like letting shit go, you know, and just getting over it. That's a big problem.
You like to hold on to it.
Yeah, I
and-
like to shoot.
And then
I'm like,
replay it in
I'm
your
like
head.
a hoarder of memories.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I just hold on to shit, and it's just, I don't know why I do it. I gotta.
Yeah, I
get
do.
better
I'm
with
the
that.
same way,
Yeah,
honestly.
me too.
Truthfully.
Yeah,
Still
so-
today, yeah.
Yeah.
Still today, I
yeah,
suck it.
So that really changed it, and then, but I didn't. Like I messed around with other stuff. Like I had tried heroin like once, like snorting heroin one time, and it didn't do anything for me.
In
I
high
didn't-
school?
Yeah, this was in high school. And
In
I didn't
high
like
school?
It. And I
God.
didn't like it. I didn't like it. So
Why didn't you like it?
it didn't do anything for me. Literally, I didn't, and I didn't feel anything.
I wonder
So
if it was real.
yeah, that's what I don't know. But I was with a girl at the time where she did it, and she said she felt it, but I didn't feel it.
How's that conversation come up? Like your friend's like, "Hey, I got some heroin. You want to try it?" And then you're just like, "Let's
She
go."
was actually a heroin addict. She was a heroin addict, and she was just like, "Oh, you know, I want to go get this," and I was like, you know, pretty much we didn't have enough money to go get both, so. You know, and she was just like, "Oh, well, it'll get you higher," and I was like, oh, "Okay," and I did, and I was like, "Fuck that, I'm never."
Something tells me she might have pinched your shit
Yeah,
and or
it's-
switched it out with
Yeah, the
something
old
totally
Something.
fake.
Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Because if she's already a heroin addict and you're saying you felt nothing,
Yeah, they're the experts. They would know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just I don't know, but I never pills was like the farthest I went until after my baby's dad had got shot, and then all that stuff that came out about him sleeping with my best friend who had passed and stuff, and he just kept calling me and telling me about it and stuff like that, and I literally at that point wanted to fucking kill him.
so did you
Yeah.
graduate?
Yeah, I graduated. I don't
Okay.
have any felonies or.
You have no felonies.
I have no
Scathed through life without a
felonies.
felony.
Actually, it's crazy though, because I looked up my guardian angel, and his name's Leckable, and my guardian angel specifically keeps me safe from drug dealings, court proceedings, people that are trying to wrongfully do me. That's what it literally said when I looked him up, and I was like, that's fucking crazy.
How do you look up a guardian angel?
You just type in your birthday and then type in guardian angel for this birthday, and it'll tell you everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah.
Really, really weird. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
I look at a bunch of weird shit. I don't know why.
No,
I got a
I get
weird
it.
head.
I get it.
But yeah, I don't. But yeah, I ended up graduating high school.
College?
I went to nursing school for a little bit, but I was already kind of with my baby's dad at the time, and I went to nursing school. Well, hang on, backtrack a little bit. Right before I met him, it was right out of high school. So I graduated high school, and then right out of there, I met this one dude, and he was older than me. He was like in his 40s or 50s. I'm like 19 at the time, and actually I met him because I was over at this guy's house hanging out with him, and his girlfriend came home, and I was really supposed to be there. So the dude next door was like, oh, she's with me or whatever. Then I found out the dude had pills. So then I'm over there hanging out with him all night. Me and him hang out for like a week. And then we started like moving. We were sending weed back from California, and I did that for a little bit. And then I met my baby's dad in the middle of me doing that. And he was like, I want you to get out of this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, fuck you, dude. I'm making $5,000 to $10,000 2-3 days out of the month
For transporting weed?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. All I had to do was, and I was shipping it. So
What,
it wasn't,
you drive to Cali?
No, I'd fly. They
You'd
would fly us.
fly.
They would fly us. We'd fly down there. They had about $100,000. They would buy the weed or whatever. Then they had another group that would box it up, and then me and this one girl would take it to the UPS store and send it off.
Did it at the UPS store?
Yeah, I did it at UPS.
Ballsy,
I did it
son
at
of a
FedEx.
gun.
I did it. Yeah, they knew me. They knew me pretty well because I was going down. Towards the end of it, I was going down once or twice a month.
So you fly to California.
Yeah.
Do you have any part in picking up the weed or buying it from whoever they're buying it?
No,
So
I
you
just-
just
I
get
just-
the weed, you box it, you ship it.
I get the boxes after they're boxed already. You can't smell it.
So you don't even know what's in there, girl.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it was weed because
Yeah.
the dude, the older dude that I was messing with at the time, he was up there with him. I got out of it before they started shipping coke and stuff, but they did venture over into coke, and I was like,
And no close calls, like going through FedEx or...
Nope. There was one time a box didn't make it, but this one girl had brought it in. It was the first time that she had ever brought me with her and was trying to show me everything. And the box didn't make it. And then she was trying to take my $5,000 from that box. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not taking my $5,000 from that box like you were supposed to show me. And then we ended up discussing it, and then I ended up getting paid for it. But yeah, she didn't like sharing shit with me really to begin with anyways, because I don't know. They wanted a white girl though. The other girl I was doing it with was like a light-skinned girl. She was a stripper and she had a bunch of tattoos. At this time I didn't have tattoos and stuff. I just,
That's
I looked
wild.
more normal, So,
They specifically wanted someone who looks like you.
yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd have been terrified.
Yeah, no, actually, it's crazy because in the most times in my life where I should be terrified, I should be scared, I should be worried, I'm not.
Does it get shipped back to your house, or does it go to whoever
No.
it's going to?
No, so we had it being shipped to a place here, a house here, and then I had it to where we didn't have insurance on the boxes. That was a big way that we were getting through with it too, is we weren't insuring these boxes.
Right.
So they're less looking into those. But after they'd be shipped off, I would give a bankrupted or bankruptcy closed house address. And that's where it would go back to. And we had people in California, if a box didn't, you get what I'm saying, they'd come back to go and it's to a foreclosed house,
Dang.
That was how I did. That was how I did mine, as far as my addresses and stuff like that. I can't speak for everybody else, but that was my whole scheme in it.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep, I
Yeah.
was doing that, yeah. But, and then after that, I met my baby's dad. We had 2 kids.
And you got a pill habit this whole time, right?
Actually, yeah, when I first met my baby's dad, so I met my baby's dad, we got together. We had stopped, I had stopped messing with old dude or whatever, and then I got clean for like 2 years.
Okay.
I was clean for like 2 years. And then, basically, I was just like so in love with him, I wasn't paying attention to what was going on, and then I started to realize, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, and then I started to hang out with my one friend who had passed away, her again, and at the time, she's dating the dude that I used to ship the stuff back from
Golly,
Cali
it's
with.
the
So
7
it's
degrees of
like-
Kevin Bacon right there.
Yeah, literally, it's like a big circle, so it's crazy. So yeah, we got together after that, and then I was trying to keep my life together, but then after I had kids and stuff, and then started finding out he was cheating on me, buying all these hookers and stuff like that. I didn't know what was wrong with him, but I kept telling him, like, there'd be times he would come home and I would know he'd like cheat on me, and I'd be like, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're better than this, like trying to uptalk him.
He
and
would
stuff.
tell you that, or you just knew?
I just knew.
How do you know?
I just
It's
knew.
like
It
a
was
womanly
just always
sense?
my intuition. My intuition. I knew he was gonna get shot the night he got shot, actually, which I'll tell you about that. But I just always felt it. And after he got shot, he told me, he was like, anytime you called me out and said I cheated on you, he said you were 1,000% right.
Wow.
He said every time, and I'm like, I
Damn.
can't even think about how many times I've done that. You know?
Why hookers? Like, it seems like a.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess I don't know. I think it was more of like a control thing. You
Yeah.
know? And I kept telling him too. I
Why?
was like,
Why stay? Really is the question.
yeah. Well, after my parents had got divorced, that was my whole thing. My whole thing. I just wanted a family. I wanted a family, you know, because my dad had kind of stopped talking to me with my drug addiction and stuff like that. Everybody, you know, knew what was going on, and it kind of.
Yeah, you
already
were
shunned me,
ostracized,
you know.
and yeah.
So it was like, why not stay? You know what I'm saying? I don't have anywhere else to go, you know, and that
Yeah.
was my big thing. Where am I gonna go? You
Yeah.
know? I've already fucking ruined everything with every person in my life. Like, where am I gonna go?
This is all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So make the best of it, you know. And then until I got it in my head, because he would do stuff to me, and I'd be like, oh, you know, this is karma for my drug addiction, or blah blah blah. Until it finally got to the point where I'm like, I didn't do this much
Wait
shit.
a minute. Wait a minute.
know,
I
I
think I'm
do all
even
of
with
it.
karma.
Yeah, I didn't do that much shit. So, yeah, and then he ended up, like I said, getting shot. The dude who shot him is the only person in my life I've ever saved from an overdose. They ended up turning around.
You knew the guy who did it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'd saved the dude's life 2 years prior to that. And every time he saw me, he would give me a hug and tell me thank you. He knew exactly who I was. He knew who my baby's dad was. Like, they were friends.
So then what the fuck? Why
Yeah.
did he shoot him? Like, what? If he knows you, right?
Yeah.
And you saved his life. Like, why? Like,
It
what was
just-
it over? What was the dispute? What was...
So the whole thing with that was me and my baby's dad had got into it. I woke up one morning and I looked at him and I said, this is going to be the hardest thing I ever have to do, but you got to leave. I said, I'm done with this. I'm done with you. I'm done with the cheating, the lying, you know, stealing my drugs, stealing my money and everything, and then just fucking me and then just being like, fuck you, bitch.
Mm.
Like, I was like, I'm done with that. So he left. That whole day I just had a bad feeling. And then I just kept feeling like death. Like, I was just so paranoid that night. Like, I kept, like, hiding in my house and shit. Mind you, I'm not on meth or anything, but I'm, like, hiding around like I'm on fucking meth. Like, I could feel it. I called him probably 200 times, like, come home, just come home. He's like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. Well, they had fallen asleep all at my baby dad's cousin's house. And earlier in the night, the dude who had shot my kid's father and then his cousin had wrecked his cousin's girlfriend's car. So when they got back, the girlfriend was like, well, you got to pay for our stuff. Everybody woke up in the morning. All of their drugs were gone. All of their guns were gone. His fucking Timbs were even upstairs, like, wrapped up and stuff. Like, all of his stuff was gone. And at that point, like, my baby's dad was sleeping with everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was sleeping with everything on him. So, because he was just super paranoid. I think he was using the meth, you know, and we ended up finding out. But I was like, that's not like him to leave that shit, especially around that dude, because he already doesn't trust him.
Mhm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they already don't get along. That's not adding up in my head. And then supposedly the dude woke up, couldn't find his drugs because he was on fentanyl at the time. Woke up, couldn't find his Fetty, couldn't find his pills, and then went upstairs. And I guess he said the girlfriend told me that she was the only one awake, and that he walked up and was like, oh, where's my stuff, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, I put it up, you know, in the closet or whatever. My kids or somebody had stopped by last night, so we put up the guns. And then he was like, okay. And then he was like, well, where's my stuff? And they said, well, go check the couch, you know, or, you know, Jalen has it, which is my baby's dad. So he goes downstairs, he's ripping through the couch or whatever. He ends up waking up my baby's dad, and he has a gun at this time, a pistol with a big-ass drum on it. And he's like, where's my shit, blah, blah, blah. And Jalen wakes up, and he's, like, starting to feel for his shit. He's like, wait, where's my shit? You know? And at this point, we had just got one of those big suburban Cadillac cars with the extended cab. We had just got that. And on the Ring camera, you see Jalen walk out, and he opens up all 4 doors of this truck and is looking through it, trying to find his shit. And I was like, if dude was riding around with him one night, why didn't he go look? You know what I'm saying? If you thought somebody had your shit, why wouldn't you walk up there?
Right.
And the dude's just standing in front of the Ring camera the whole time with his gun, with his back to the Ring camera. So my baby's dad finally walks around, shuts all the doors, walks up, and you can see the dude say something. He said that he was just like, you got my shit. My baby's dad was a smart ass, you know what I'm saying? Because he knew he could fight and shit. So he was just like, I ain't got your shit. Like, what you gonna do? And smiled and, like, turned around. So I don't know if he thought he had his shit or what. So just point blank range.
Shot him in the back.
One time.
Wow.
Execution, basically,
Yeah.
style.
Shot him in the spine then, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
Yeah.
And all this on footage? Like, yeah, there's camera footage of this somewhere?
There's camera footage basically of him
What
like
a
in the house.
Dumbass,
But, yeah.
bro.
Wow.
Yeah. But, yeah, no.
So what happens to the shooter? Does
The
he go to
shooter,
jail?
so listen, he goes to take off. He had taken all of Jalen's like shit out of his pocket and his phone and shit. He had runs around the house, and then by that point he knows everybody else is up and down there with him. So then he circles back around the house like a dumbass, because he would have got away probably if he wouldn't have done that, but it was still on camera. So he circles back around, he points the gun at the girlfriend or whatever and the cousin and was like, if y'all tell anybody who did this, I'm gonna kill you. And then he takes off running, and then they caught him literally like at the corner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not a very
dude didn't
smooth
make
criminal at all.
Doesn't surprise me, yeah.
Yeah, but he was all fucked up and shit, and he tried to reach out to me on Facebook from jail, like,
Huh.
yeah, and be like, that's not what happened, and I was like,
Don't care. Yeah.
at this point, I'm just trying to raise good little humans by myself.
Yeah, right.
You know, my kids have seen a lot. My kids have been through a lot with me and his ups and downs and shit like that. So it's just at this point in my life, I'm not worried about saving our relationship or anything. I'm worried about being a good mom, being a good person, being somebody that I can be proud of. And, you know, I don't have that to fall back on. You know what I'm saying?
So the guy that shot him still in jail?
Yeah, he's doing like 14 years.
Man. That's
Why?
insane.
Why'd he only
like
get?
7 good
Why'd he only get 14?
Because listen, it's because it wasn't. What was it? It wasn't like a homicide thing or whatever. It was like a assault with a deadly weapon or something like that. Because when he shot him, he didn't fall right over. He took a couple steps. So then it's like it becomes an assault with like a weapon or something like that instead of
Really?
aggravated
Attempted
homicide
murder.
or something.
That's fucking insane.
So he must have hired an attorney.
Well, yeah, and he was already out. That's what I'm saying. This dude was already out on bond and stuff. So, and already had another open case. So,
What?
it didn't
He must
make
have had
sense.
a great attorney.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it just always like messed with my head about it, you know. And then, yeah.
So the day you broke up with him, he went there after you
Yeah,
broke up
he
with him,
went
that's
there.
when it happened?
Yeah, because like I said, he had broke my wrist like the week before that. It was a couple weeks before that he had broke my wrist. And then I was like, I will never fight with you again. You ever touch me, I said, I will kill you. Flat out. I said, nobody's taking that ass whooping. Nobody. And then he was just like, you told me I was going to die. I was like, I didn't know that. I just, you know, I was saying that just for my sake.
Yeah.
But, yeah, how it happened.
Wow.
Dang.
So what toll does that take on you?
So after all that had happened, he had gotten shot. And then, like I said, I was trying to keep everything straight. My mom had literally, because we were living with my mom, the day it all happened, she hated him. So she moved out of the apartment the day it happened. She was like, I'm not coming to watch the kids. I don't care what happened to him. I'm not coming. So then I had to find somebody to watch him or whatever, go up there. And then, like I said, he went through his little rehab and stuff. And it was really messed up because he didn't have a phone at the time. I went and bought him a phone. And since we weren't married, I wasn't
Is
first
this
of kin.
a new guy?
No, this is my
This
baby
is
dad.
the shot
Oh, this
guy.
is prior to getting shot.
No, this is after he got shot. So when you get shot and
Oh,
stuff.
he's paralyzed. That's
Yeah.
right. He's still with us. He's just paralyzed.
Yeah, he's paralyzed.
Sorry.
You
Well,
get-
we didn't talk about that on camera. So when he got shot,
Yeah,
he did not pass away, but
No,
he's
he got
paralyzed from
from
the
the
waist
down.
down.
yeah, for
No.
the rest of his
Okay,
life is what
got
they
it.
said.
Mm.
Yep. So I'm not first of kin though because we weren't married or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They don't have that common law shit anymore. So his mom was like, they're not married, blah blah blah. So I go and buy him a phone and get it taken up there. She had like blocked my number and deleted my number out of it. We had 2 cars. She took both of them. All the money we had got taken from us. I was left with nothing. Nothing. Nothing.
What'd she have against you?
She hasn't liked me for a long time because
Even
Jalen.
before the shooting?
Yeah, my baby's dad. He really took care of her. I always said she treated him like her man. You know what I'm saying? That was her man. You know, if she ran into a bind or needed money for a bill, or you know what I'm saying, Jalen would take care of it to the point to where me and Jalen would fight about it. Like, why are you taking away from us? And the same thing with his cousin that he got shot at his house. I was like, why would you? You know, consistently go and help this person who doesn't have kids, who doesn't have anything to lose. People who don't have shit to lose will help you lose everything, like, you know. And then sure enough, that's what happened. Yeah.
Are you getting high at all during this? Like you got clean,
Oh, yeah.
and now you're back to getting high.
Yeah, now I'm back to getting high. Yeah. And,
What are you doing? You doing pills?
I was doing coke. I was doing 30s. I was doing Xanny bars.
Where are you
I
getting?
was
Are these
smoking
30s
weed.
Yeah,
you're
where
getting
does the
real at this
bread come
point in
from?
time?
At that
Like
point,
they've got to be
I don't
pressed.
think they were.
They've got to
No,
be pressed.
They have to be. They have to be. Well,
Same with the Xanny
one-
bars. Like those bitches.
I know for sure when they first came out with the yellow, they had came out with the yellow 30s. That's when this was.
Oh,
You haven't seen those?
I don't think I ever
I know
had any
nothing
of
of
those.
it,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Those
I
are
knew
pressed
somebody.
as fuck.
Yeah, so we had got those. They were like yellow ones, and then, like I said, he had got shot, and I was just left with a
You
bunch of
imagine
shit.
getting handed a yellow 30?
Yeah, like yeah.
I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
How do you supply? Like, how are you feeding your habit? Like, what's your
selling shit.
Selling shit?
Just middlemaning stuff.
Selling shit. I was a big like scam artist with PayPal and shit like that. Like I used to get $6,000 to $7,000 back from PayPal a year.
how?
Wow.
I would spend money. I would attach somebody's random cash app and transfer the money and have them pull it out and give it back to me, but say that somebody stole my card and that's
Oh,
not my
okay.
shit, and they would just.
And then PayPal just
PayPal's
reimburses
better
like
than
that.
Chase when it comes to
Reimburse you.
that.
No shit.
PayPal's.
But I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but yeah. I
Yeah,
was doing
banks.
that.
A bank's not just gonna fucking fork over. They're gonna like do a full investigation.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Especially I was doing it for like sometimes like $3,000 at a time.
God.
Yeah, and then,
How long does it take to get back from PayPal once you file a claim?
sometimes when I first started doing it, if I make a new PayPal, it's like within that week I'll get it back.
And they
But
never
yeah,
look at you like, girl, this is like the
consistently
6th time this month.
doing
Red flag.
Yeah,
They never
and
got
I-
on you for it?
I would just do it until they would say something, then I would just close that account and start.
And
a
then
new
get
one.
another one? That's kind of brilliant.
Damn.
Yeah, I would do that. Or me and my one friend Jasmine, who had passed, we used to, you know how NetSpin will send you like checks and stuff when you get a NetSpin card?
Mm-hmm.
They'll send you those little checks. Well, we used to write those to each other, and we used to go down off of Hudson and Weber and stuff, and there'd be places that would cash checks, and I would just send her in there with a check that said it was $500 for her babysitting or something, and put my phone number on it. They call me, I'm sitting out in the car like, yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
money's in
I could
there.
vouch for her.
Yeah, and they'll be like, okay, cool. We just wanted to ask before we took the money out. And then, it takes 2 days for that to clear, and by that time, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over with.
Yeah, and we did that. We did that a bunch, too. And then I had this one dude who was, he was stealing payroll checks from somewhere and, like, getting, like, an actual payroll check from a company.
Mhm.
And he was, like, basically copying that number at the bottom somehow and, like, remaking that same check. But it was just, as long as it was from that payroll thing at the bottom, you could cash any check through that payroll company. So we were doing that, and he was giving me like $5,000 to $6,000 checks. I was going to cash those, and I was getting half of that.
Jeez.
Damn.
Yeah, half of that.
But, like,
So-
isn't your real name on this check?
yeah, my real name was, but I was doing this at Walmart and Kroger.
But I mean, you never got worried like what it might come back later, because eventually they'll find out, right? It might
Yeah.
take a minute, but like they'll find out eventually.
yeah, but it was like I don't know. I guess I really didn't.
Just didn't care.
I just
Like
didn't-
worry about it later, right?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. But that was how I got by.
I mean, yeah.
I was a
At that
big-
point, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll worry about
Yeah, because at that point I had kids and stuff, and I'm like, I'm just trying not to be sick. That's that was my whole thing. I can't.
You have to be able to function.
I have to be able to function, you know what I'm saying? At this point, my kids are 1, 2, you know what I'm saying? A couple
So you got to
months
like
old,
be a
like,
full blown addict and a parent.
And a
And then
parent.
like obviously parenting sucks if you're dope sick.
Yeah, and then dealing with all the shit from my baby's dad and stuff. But I never went, like, I never tried to, like, do anything crazy until, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No. I just was curious with the baby dad thing, when he became paralyzed, like, did you try to help, like, support him through that, like, emotionally, or
I tried to, but that's when I found out. That's when I was doing all that. That's when he came out and was like, "Oh, I slept with your best friend." I was like, "Please just tell me you're lying." I was like, I gave him like
Why would he decide to
It's a
tell you
bad
that
time.
then?
Yeah, I don't know, but I picked up he had a big ass Bluetooth speaker. I'll never forget. And he was like down in his mom's living room at this point because he had like the hospital bed and everything. Like we had the whole kitchen set up like a hospital room. And I just fucking, I remember I fucking threw that shit at him in the bed. And his mom was like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Just let her go." And I was pissed. I was ready to, yeah.
That just seems like a really bad time to tell the person that's going to take care of you, like, that kind of news. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's wrong. Obviously, what he did was wrong, but it's like he hadn't said shit
Yeah.
or gave a fuck up to that point. But now that he's paralyzed from the waist down and needs help, he's gonna unload all this on you.
And here's what had happened. So I guess they had slept together when I was pregnant with my second son in my house in front of me while I was asleep. And
while you were sleeping.
Yeah, he had told me this, and I didn't know this. So me and her had
Did you-
fallen out at that time, and then after he got shot, she had came back around. So I didn't know why, you know. So she's trying to help me, and then he gets out of the hospital and he sees that she's back around, and he's like, well, I just wanted to tell you that. He was like, because, you know, I don't want her just in your face and then you not know, you know. He was like, if I would have died, you would have never known. You know, and you guys, you know. And I was just always, whether I was an addict or not, I was always trying to help somebody. I was always trying to do some shit. My best friend Jasmine, the last time we were around, she was on fentanyl really bad. And I spent $700 out of my own money at that time that I really didn't have, you know what I'm saying? Basically told this bitch, hey, listen, you're going to go sleep downstairs in the basement. We're going to get you clean, you know what I'm saying? We got her to where she was like 25 days clean off of fentanyl, you
Damn.
know? And she was like talking to her mom. Everything was going good. And then she ended up dating this dude that I kind of like called like my brother, got back with him, and he basically just didn't care if she did it, I guess. And I found that out, and I was like, why would you, you know, allow her to do that?
Ruin
and then,
this.
Yeah,
you
after
know,
25 days of being clean.
yeah, and then it's just, everything just kind of went downhill after that. And then, you know, he had told me that, and then it was just, shit just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And at this time, I'm so paranoid, like I'm having like a paranoid psychosis at this point too, because when he had first got shot, I didn't know why he got shot or what had happened. My mom moved out, I was there with 3 kids, you know. I'm like, if somebody comes in my house thinking I have something I don't have, you know what I'm saying, I can't run out with 3 kids. So every night I would put my kids to sleep downstairs, and I had this chair by the back door that I would sit in every night, and I'd have 2 loaded guns on my lap, and I would sit right there, like right in between my doors. And
Wow.
I slept like that for a good couple of months.
It's a crappy way to
A
live.
good couple of months, yeah, I did that. And I felt like I had nobody to call. I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I didn't know what to say, you know, because everybody's just going to kind of look at me like I kind of had made my own mess at this point, you know.
Now you're just kind of living in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
God almighty.
Yeah. So I did that, and then, you know, me and him started trying to talk again after you told me he had slept with her, and I'm really distraught about it, you know. And then
So you're still in?
Yeah, how do you do that? Like, how, when
You're
I don't
still
even-
like gonna have this guy's back?
we could work this out?
I after that I was like, no, I was trying not to, but I was trying to be cordial for the kids, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I still want you to see the kids.
Right.
You obviously need help
It's your
seeing the
dad.
kids and stuff, so I'm not going to I don't want to be a bitter baby mommy,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, and just keep them from you just because I don't like something that you did to me, you know. Because as far as him being a dad, he was a decent dad. As far as me and him together, we would have just been better off as friends, business partners, anything else but what we were. You know, and we just basically both overstayed our fucking welcome way too long. And then it just got to the point to where he was like talking shit to me about my friend, you know what I'm saying, after she had passed. Like, oh yeah, that's why I fucked your friend and she died and blah, blah, blah. And he would constantly throw that in my face. So I finally basically hit this one point where I was like, all right, fuck it. You know, I had this dude, the dude that I was cashing the checks for, he had 30s and stuff at the time. He was like, I'm going to give you 10 30s tomorrow and half this check, you know. Come, I need you by here by 10. I was like, okay, but something the night before I just set in my head where I was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to kill myself, you know what I'm saying? I got a life insurance policy or whatever. I was like, I'm going to take myself out. An accidental overdose, my kids would get paid still.
Yeah.
So the next day, I saw the dude I was talking to at the time that night. The next morning, I got up. I went and bought $50 worth of fentanyl, which I'd never done fentanyl. I bought $50 worth of fentanyl. from
So
this
you're
dude.
going through with the plan.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
already doing yellow 30s. So
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. You know what I'm saying? So
what's the
Lord knows what the
difference?
fuck
Yeah.
I was already fucking doing.
It's already.
You know, really,
fentanyl,
you know,
yeah.
seriously. But, yeah, so that day I went and got $50 worth of fentanyl. I'll never forget. I locked myself in the bathroom, and then he was on FaceTime with me. My baby's dad was on FaceTime with me. And I did the whole $50 worth in one
Wow.
line.
So you're going to do it on live with him?
Yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah,
that's
that's
diabolical.
yeah.
Bravo.
But I was like, if you want to sit here and, you know, you want to see my demise so much,
Here
you
it
go.
is.
You know. So then I did that. I don't even remember really doing it. I just remember I woke up and I was in the back of the ambulance, and then they were like, well, how much did you do? And I was like, well, $10. And they were like, oh, okay. But I went inside, and my mom then had came back. That was the first time my mom had came back. And she was, like, looking at me, and she was just, like, in tears. And she was like, you were green and blue, and they carried you out in a bag, and, you weren't breathing. And they told me that they couldn't get you to breathe. It took them 5 minutes to get you to breathe and stuff. And I was just like, okay. I was like, but I need to throw up. I kept telling her that. I need to throw up. I did this. I knew from the Narcan I needed to throw up, and I wasn't throwing up. And they told her, just sit here with her for a minute. And I remember after they Narcan me, I went and got cigarettes from the store, came back and went right back into an overdose.
Wow.
Went
So
right back
they
into it.
come, they pump you full of Narcan, you wake up, you go buy a pack of Newports, and then come back, and then out cold again.
Out again.
Wow.
Out again. Yep. And then I woke up again in the back of the thing, and they were like, yeah, my oxygen in my brain was at like 30%. And they were like, we have to get this up to like 70.
you were.
Are you pissed that you're alive?
At first I kind of was, but then I was kind of thankful.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It kind of, I don't know why, it just kind of like snapped me, and I was like, I just want to go hug my kids. You know what I'm saying? Because my kids were there the whole time this happened. So my kids were there the whole time this happened. I was not. The whole point of this is I wasn't a good person.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times in my life I thought I was a
Well,
good
you were
person.
sick.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it's like I thought I was always doing the right thing, and I never really could get it right.
Well, I don't think that means you're a bad person, like, personally. I mean, I think there's people in this world that would say that, right? I say that because I used with my mom, and people think, like, I've seen people, like, looks of disgust as I share that with people and, like, out in the crowd.
Yeah.
And what you're saying about your kids, it's like the disease of addiction is so powerful that nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have that first.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
And
else
then the
nothing else
kids
makes
come
sense.
second.
Yeah.
Like, it's just what it is.
Yeah,
It doesn't
and
make
then-
you a bad person. Just you were sick.
Yeah.
How'd you get found? Did the guy on Facebook Live call somebody
Actually,
for
they
you?
said my 4-year-old son was the first person to call 911.
That's rough.
My baby's dad waited 10 minutes to call.
So he watches you do a bump, you go down,
He waited 10 minutes
and then
to
he
call.
waits 10 minutes.
That's what the cops told me. The cops, when I woke
Prick.
up, they said my 4-year-old son was the person who called.
Wow.
And then, and then that involved children's services getting involved, and you know what I'm saying. Me and him were still kind of dealing with each other at the time, on and off. It was just fucked up. It was a fucked up toxic ass cycle. We could just.
So did they end up taking your kids?
Yes, they did. They ended up getting placed with his mom, which
God,
I
that's a
thank
gut
her.
stab.
Yeah, listen, I thank her for taking them and my kids not being in the system.
Yeah.
But they still, I don't feel like they were done just there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so since he gets shot, we get Social Security, for instance. There was a bank account that was put on hold because nobody held custody. She held kinship, and then Children's Services held placement. I still had custody.
Yeah.
So nobody can get into that account until they gained custody. Well, she turned around and lied and said that she got custody of the kids 10 days before I got them back, got all this money. And I kept telling her, like, just give me my shit. And she's like, no, I don't have anything to give you. I got in a fight with, I started arguing with his sisters about it and stuff, and his brother, and they were like, she wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And I just finally was like, you want to know what? I just let go and gave it up to God, because I was like, listen, I'm going to play this out. I'm going to let them keep seeing them, because once all this shit hits the fan, and sure enough, it did this year. And she ended up finally, after she went to go file her taxes this year, she came back like, oh, yeah, they're not giving me my taxes because I got to pay Shae.
Ooh,
Yeah.
How much was in the account?
It
like, when
was
she got
$4,974.
So she got a little payoff for
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
But
but she's got to
again,
pay it all back. So
It has to come back. And Is
Yeah.
it paid directly to you?
yeah, it'll get paid directly to me once I get paid.
All right. So is this like at what point after? Is it after the OD that like, all right, I got to get my shit together?
Yeah, pretty much. So after the OD, well, to be honest, no. After the OD, it wasn't.
Wasn't enough for you?
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. I kept going. I actually kept going for a good couple more months. I had a child endangerment charge or whatever from the kids, from doing that in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Well, his mom, while she had custody, kept letting us see them. Which probably wasn't the best idea,
Yeah.
because we weren't in the best mindset. So we ended up getting pulled over on 161, and then he had a warrant at the time, and I had a warrant. So then they take both of us at this point.
It's the baby dad and you.
Yeah. He only went for like 2 days. I had to sit in there for like a month because they said I didn't have a bond when I did, and it was a bunch of shit. So, but
And you
yeah.
going through withdrawal in jail?
Here's the craziest part about that, man, is if I would go through a withdrawal, I'd much rather be in a hospital or be in jail.
Really?
Every time I felt like I've been in jail or in a hospital, I just know I can't.
I was saying,
It's
is it because you
something- it's
know,
just-
like, there's no getting out of this?
Yeah,
like,
it's just something about the mentality of it that
it makes you
just,
accept it a little quicker,
yeah, and
right?
it's
Yeah.
just kind of I just move the fuck on. You know, it's weird, and I'm cool. Like,
It's when you have an out that it's
Yeah.
difficult.
And what's jail like for a girl like you? I feel I'd look at you and I'm like, she probably hold her own, right?
yeah, I
So-
love jail actually.
Okay.
Actually, that kind of sounds fucked up, but I loved jail. I loved the structure of jail. I loved the knowing, you know what I'm saying. I was on a schedule. I had to do this, and I don't know. I liked that because I felt like there was a lot of time in my life I needed structure that I couldn't give to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like I would go there and get that kind of. I don't know. That
I
makes
know, I
sense, but-
absolutely
No.
get it. It's
Yeah.
simple. It's a simple life, right?
Yeah.
It's like they tell me what to do. They tell me when to eat. I can sleep.
Yeah.
Like that's all you need, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
When I interviewed a judge, and incarceration is her last tool.
Yeah.
It's like she hates sending people to prison. Like there's times where she has to, right?
Yeah.
Because of certain crimes or whatever. And I told her I needed it.
Yeah.
I would have gotten clean without it.
Yeah.
Like you had to put me in cuffs and take me off the street
Yeah.
to get clean. And so it's interesting to hear you say something similar. Like
Yeah, because
I needed that shit. Like
Yeah.
otherwise I wasn't gonna stop.
I had no
Hell
intentions
no.
on stopping.
No, you had to
No.
make me stop.
And then after when I was in jail, I kept calling my grandma Ramos, which at this point, I hadn't talked to my dad's side of the family, you know what I'm saying, in a good 7-8 years, you know what I'm saying. They've seen me, but it's to ask for money or ask if I could do something to make some money or, you know, hearing some fucked up shit about me. So when all of that happened, I kept calling her and begging her, like, please just let me come stay with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm clean. I'm in jail. Like, I won't do anything. Just let me come stay with you. She finally, after that month of me being in there, gives in, you know, and was like, I want you to come stay with me. So I get out, and then her and my grandpa have a big house in Polaris that they built. And so I'm staying in their basement, and I'll never forget it. My grandpa, he's a big drinker. I love him. But he was drunk one night, and he was sitting out there. He's like, come here, come talk to me. And I was like, all right. And he was just like, yeah, I know you were out there selling yourself, and you were doing this, and blah, 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 for drugs. My family's very, very honest. He was just like, you know, that shit's got to stop. He was like, you know that your dad, your sister, and your uncle are really upset at us for letting you stay here. And I was like, huh? You know, I'm like, what do you mean? And he was like, yeah, he said, Uncle Sean said that you're just going to overdose and die in the basement, and
Wow.
Grandma's going to find you. And I was just like, hearing that, I was like, I needed to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Because these are people that I don't think even give a fuck about me.
But why would they have any reason to believe anything different?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, I don't know. I guess hearing that he had anything to say about me felt better than he not having
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
You know, at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
point, because it's just like, damn, all right, you know, this is what I made. When I went and stayed over there, everybody in my family thought I had a felony and my life. I'm like, I don't have any felonies or anything like that. They swore that I was.
Yeah, don't get any of those.
Yeah, so, but.
They fucking suck.
Yeah, so that happened. I stayed there and ended up getting custody of my kids back a year.
You got clean there
Yeah, yeah.
at your
yeah.
grandparents
Yep,
on your
and-
own?
Yep. Actually, just because that's what they say. They say the opposite of addiction is interaction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like having people to talk to, and that was one thing. That was my biggest thing is I would shut down.
Connection.
Yeah, connection.
Yeah.
I self-isolate though. You know, that's one of my biggest things because I'm like, oh, you know, just because I'm having a shitstorm, I don't want my shitstorm to rub off on you or, you know, which not a good way to handle stuff.
Right.
So.
So you stay clean since getting out of jail, going to grandma's house.
Well, I had 2 lapses in my sobriety. I'm not gonna
Okay.
lie. I did have 2 little lapses. I wouldn't call them relapses because I stopped
You
and
stopped.
got myself back together. But yeah, I did have 2 lapses, and actually, the one scared me because it was the last one I went to go get something off somebody, and I did it, and it was obviously a pressed pill. You know what I'm saying? And then I had dropped, and yeah, my son.
So you
was with-
OD'd again.
Yeah, I
Damn.
OD'd again, but
Where
I woke
at?
up. It was a thrift store.
Okay, so when at
It's-
grandma's house.
No, I was in a thrift store. Yeah, but I had my mom's car at the time, and I had my son, then my sister had to come.
God.
But you woke up on
Get
your
me
own.
and stuff.
No.
Nope. They had to get me. Yeah. They had to Narcan me.
Jesus.
Yeah. But I hadn't done anything. I hadn't touched anything. Not even weed.
And how do you
nothing.
talk yourself into that? Like, how does that become a good idea? Like, so I've got some clean time life falling back together. How do
Yeah, it
I
was
trick
just-
myself into thinking, like, I can...
I don't.
You
I don't-
having like a good day and you wanted to make it better or some shit?
I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I don't know. I never could get. They just always made everything better. It's the easiest way for me to put it.
Yeah.
They always made everything better, like you said. It was never right. I wish I would have never did it, especially not snorting them or anything, because that shit ruined my.
You
fucking
never
life.
crossed the line to IV use? That's
No,
good.
No,
That's
I
good.
never did that. No.
Because, man, once you cross that line.
Yeah, there's no coming back.
Yeah, my whole self-harm
You're
thing. I
fucked.
used to cut myself and shit, and that's how. After that, I was like, no, I don't like IVs. I like tattoos and stuff. You know.
It's
what
the only
I'm
kind of
saying?
needle I do.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, fuck that.
So what was life like after you got sober and you got custody of the kids back?
It was good. Stuff really started looking up for me. I was very like positive with my outlook on life and my shit with my kids, and then I was doing so well though because I was living with people. You know what I'm saying? I had somebody to hold me accountable. I couldn't just fuck off, and then I ended up getting my own apartment. And that's where I had my little lapse, and it was just. But the apartment I moved into was a low income apartment off of Sinclair. They're brand new.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I ended up getting kicked out of there because I had to pull my
Sinclair.
gun.
Oh, you
off
get
on
kicked out of
some-
the hood. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I had to pull my gun on this lady because she pulled her gun on my kids, and then I was just like, well,
Wow. It's like
yeah,
the fucking OK Corral over there.
yeah. And then after I moved out, I've gotten like 7 or 8 videos. Some girl got shot in the hand. There was like a shootout on my
Oh, Sinclair's
floor.
fucked up.
Yeah.
I used
so,
to get drugs down
Yeah, that's
there.
That's
Yeah.
over by our area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's where I
So
lived.
where are you at now? Are you on your own now?
I had to, like I said, this recently just happened where I got kicked out of there. So I recently just had to move back in with my grandpa. He stays right around the corner. He's like 82. So we moved back in with him, which he was like, come here, you know, it's going to get worse anyways. And I was like, all right. So what I'm doing now, because I was on Section 8 and all that, and I just decided I'm giving all that up.
Okay,
I'm
good for you.
restarting my everything, you know, because I was like, I'm just done giving myself an out. I'm done. Because everything in my life, I use it as like a crutch. I always have a crutch. I always have something to fall back on. That's why I make those stupid ass decisions like, oh, everything's going good. But, you know, why would
Yeah.
I go do that? Because I could. You know, that's the simplest way. I knew I could, you know, and it's just, that's not a good way of thinking. That's not a good way of living, and I'm sick of having that.
And like
So-
you would get bailed out no matter what, basically.
Yeah, kind of. Or like I said, if I sat in there, I'd be cool with that too.
Right.
You know,
Doesn't
it's-
matter.
Yeah, because it gets to the point, you know, I'll get frustrated with life and stuff. Actually, I said it to my mom like last week. I was like, man, sometimes I wish I was in jail. She just looked at me like, what? You know, but it was just, it's a lot, you know. My everyday life is a lot, you know, and then learning how to deal with your emotions while trying to teach little people how to deal with their
Yeah.
emotions, and, you know, just recently really being sober. I was on stuff for 17 years.
And it's crazy because like you don't think about it in the day to day, but like everything you do, they see, they hear, and
Yeah.
that's like chances are that's how they're gonna grow up. That's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
Are all
Terrifying.
3 of these children from
The
the
same
same?
dude.
Same guy.
So the genetics are definitely
there.
there. Do you have
Yep.
a plan to, when they get to a certain age, to like tell them, hey,
Actually, my
you...
son's 8 right now. We have very open conversations about stuff, you know, like I'm just honest about stuff, you know. I tell them it's fun when you get to teenage years or stuff like that. It's fun to go out and get fucked up or whatever, I said, but when that becomes an everyday way of life, the come down, that's what's hard. Going back to being responsible, being a responsible parent, doing what you need to do, you know. That's when everything isn't fun in life. You know,
No.
there comes to a point to where shit's not fun, even the fun shit.
Yeah.
And when you come to a point to where even the fun shit's not fun, then you're not living.
Something's wrong.
Yeah. You know, so he's just like, okay, you know, and I'm very honest about my drug addictions, and they know. They know. So,
It's good.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's good.
yeah, I try to, you know, a lot of people don't agree with it, but it's just, I'd much rather, you know what you're walking into, you get what I'm saying, versus a kid who's going to dare, they're telling, oh, you know what I'm saying, this won't get you high. Somebody's like, oh no, it got me rocked and I was fine. You know, like that's all that shit takes. So yeah, I'd much rather me just tell them, yeah, it can be fun, but that come down's
Yeah.
not fun. And then, you know, when it's a Tuesday at 2:30 in the afternoon and you're trying to leave work and, you know what I'm saying, scheme out of this or scheme out of that or whatever, that's not living. So
I always think that if I was to have a kid, I would tell them, like, hey, just so you know, your dad has this disease called alcoholism. You may or may not have it.
yeah,
My recommendation is that you don't drink a beer, you don't smoke weed, you don't do any of this because you might not be able to stop.
yeah. See, that was the whole big thing with me too. I never was a really big drinker because everybody in my family was huge drinkers. So I never really fucked with alcohol like that. Still don't really like it.
But it's the same disease.
Yeah, but that's what I was telling them. I was like, it's the same shit if you hold it, you know.
Same exact disease.
You know, I just, yeah.
I drank uncontrollably for a long time before I even picked up a pain pill.
Yeah.
Like, and then I dropped the booze
Yeah.
because I liked the painkillers better.
Yeah, that's basically what happens
Like,
when you do
it's,
pain pills.
it's the same fucking disease.
Yeah.
It's the same disease, you know? And yeah, I've thought about that many times. Like, I would have to be honest with them and give them a shot, you know?
Because if not, then you're just going out into the world blindly, you know what I'm saying? And you don't.
Yeah.
The world's not nice. That's why I tell them, even when I whoop them, I'd rather me beat your ass now than somebody else beat your ass and not have no care about you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a cold fucking world.
Yeah, and that's what I told him. I was like, there's 12, 13-year-old kids out here with guns now, you know what I'm saying? They're not fucking playing.
No.
They're not
They are
playing
not.
at all, so.
And the streets today, as you know,
Yeah.
are much more dangerous than they were fucking 10 years ago.
Yeah, I would never let my kids
15 years
ride
ago.
to the bike on a store and go to the store on the bike.
Well, I don't know about that,
Yeah,
but
you
like
know,
as far as
it's
like the
like-
drugs, like
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're going out, say you go out and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get some Xanax.
Yeah.
That shit's pressed 9 out of 10 times.
9 out of 10, yeah.
And it's got fentanyl in it.
Yep. I found out, too, they were pressing the 30s with meth. And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because I was running around for a long time. Like, oh, they gave me energy. And I found out,
Phew,
yeah,
I
they
feel
were
good.
pressing
I'd
them
be
with
so
meth.
pissed.
I
Yeah,
was
I'd
so
be,
I would
mad.
have been so mad.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's next for Shae? What are your goals? What are your short-term goals?
My short-term goals right now is I am trying to open up like a food, like I'm a food truck and stuff. So to start that off, I'm gonna go on like DoorDash or whatever, open up my little food panel on DoorDash and cook and probably sell it from there.
Like a virtual kitchen type thing?
Yeah, I want to do that. There's also, I want to get the boys back into like they were in boxing for a while, and one of them wants to do boxing, the other one wants to do football, so trying to figure that out. And then I'm trying to get me a decent job somewhere, and then I'm moving out a little bit, probably like Marysville area, maybe a little
Oh,
bit
you're going,
farther.
yeah, out of
Yeah,
Columbus.
I want to live somewhere with some land, and that's my next
That's the goal.
So,
Good.
yeah,
All right, girlfriend.
just get my shit together.
Let us know when
I
you
guess.
get the food truck game on. We'll call lunch one day.
I
Yeah.
Order
got
some
you.
lunch.
I'll have to make you guys some food.
Yeah.
You stay sober and you really want to do that food truck thing, I guarantee you that
It
you will
will.
do it.
I know I will. Yeah, it's
It'll
just it's
happen.
coming. You know, I've done a lot of like businesses for my dad and stuff, and that was his big thing with me. So he's like, "You've ran businesses for me. Like, what are you doing?" You know.
Yeah.
So-
You know what you're doing. What are you
I know
doing?
what I'm
you
doing.
know?
Yeah, being stupid with my smart. So
Yeah.
you know.
You're young, you got time, just stay fucking sober
Yeah.
and you will be
Shit gets better.
just fine.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you.
Thanks, Shae. A little
no,
responsible to
seriously.
Shae.
Yeah, much appreciated. Appreciate the honesty and thanks for coming on.